Bills, 49ers. Going through what y'all need to know to make some money on this bitch. All right, so we got the picks real quick. Right now, the line is up to 2. The Bills getting 2 on the road. In Arizona, actually, this game is being played in the Arizona Cardinal Stadium because the 49ers can't play at home. And over-under set at 47.5. Now, first thing, that line might sound a little bit weird given how good the Bills are. Most people think 8-3 and the 49ers closer to 500. But actually, I think that there's a good line in terms of not having the Bills favored by too much. But that being said, I'm definitely still going to be on the Bills side of this game. That this is, I think, an overreaction to the 49ers beating the Rams last week, which was, I mean, it's something I definitely predicted. And there's a reason that matchup favors the 49ers so well. But in this game, that is not the same thing. Now, I do think it's going to be a relatively close game, but Bills +2 is absolutely the side. As far as the over/under goes, I would lean on the side of the under 47.5, given the way these two quarterbacks play, but not something I feel great betting on, although I'd be okay with it. But yeah, Bills +2 for sure. So stick around and I'll explain why and how. That's how it'll go down. So first we got the Bills offense versus the 49ers defense. Injuries. Oh, and again, yeah, whether or not an issue played inside a dome in Arizona. So nothing on the Bills side at all as far as injuries go. And on the 49ers side, Emmanuel Mosley starting corner, or actually didn't start last week now that Richard Sherman's back, but playing rotation corner, Emmanuel Mosley, questionable. And K'Wan Williams, very, very good slot corner, still out. So for the run game, offensive line versus defensive line. This is about as good as, well. No, I'm not going to go that far. I would give a slight advantage on the, especially in the interior, to the Bills. Looks like DJ Jones is probably going to be back and playing for the 49ers, which is a disaster. That guy's really, really bad. So whether it's him or if they realize that he's bad and keep him out and continue with what they went with last week with like Darion Daniels, maybe Kevin Givens in there at the other D tackle spot, along with first round rookie Javon Kinlaw. Regardless of who it is, the Bills are just better on the interior. Mitch Morse and John Feliciano are both like good interior linemen in the NFL. Brian Winters as a run blocker is okay. I don't like him. He's by far the worst of the three. But as a run blocker in this scenario, he's going to be fine. And Javon Kinlaw is just not really an impactful player. I actually think he's really similar so far to Ed Oliver on the other side of the ball here, where I get why they were high picks and everything, but they just don't do very much useful stuff. I mean, that Kinlaw touchdown last week was funny, but that's not a consistent thing or anything I care about long term. So on the edges, though, I mean, even there, so the 49ers edges actually play the run pretty well, mostly being Eric Armstead and Kerry Hyder Jr. Kerry Hyder Jr. Absolutely good. Like that's a real thing. But Darrell Williams is a monster out there, right tackle for the Bills a lot of times. Maybe not quite so much in this scheme as he was like when he was on the Panthers, but still decent. And then Deion Dawkins, more of a pass blocker than a run blocker, but he's okay. So I think the edges are really going to be mostly neutral, but I don't think it's necessarily an advantage either direction, whereas a lot of times the 49ers kind of depend on that being an advantage to stop the run. Now, the second level, that changes things some. Linebackers for the 49ers, fantastic. Fred Warner, really, really good. Dre Greenlaw, really, really good. And they're going to show up in this game. Bills aren't very good at running the ball anyway, and there's a reason for it. It's mostly because their offensive run scheme just isn't very good, and because their running backs aren't fast enough to create use advantage as well. And that's absolutely the case here. I mean, Devin Singletary cannot compete with Fred Warner or Dre Greenlaw over any number of snaps, really. So you're going to see that while there's some push on the interior over the course of the game, I mean, maybe there's one chunk play, but it's going to be pretty rare. So the overall run game is just going to be pretty mediocre. It might be okay in terms of getting 3 yards up the middle when they need it, but not great. So then you talk about the pass game. The 49ers are going to have almost no pass rush in this game. They got some last week because the Rams' offensive line is trash. Here, quite the opposite. Brian Winters is attackable, and if they move Arik Armstead or Kerry Hyder or whatever on the interior, which they do at times, especially Armstead, then he can win. But then you're talking about a non-Aaron Donald interior rusher where the impact is just really capped no matter who it is. So, and also he's just not that good. Arik Armstead is fine as a pass rusher. So you're just not talking about a lot. And from the other spots, I mean, I guess I like Kerry Hyder. I think he's for real, but he is not the type of player that beats these tackles. These guys are a lot more vulnerable to like true speed rushers, especially Darrell Williams, which the 49ers completely lack. And like I said, Kinlaw not a real pass rusher at this point, not useful. So effectively a clean pocket most of the game. Then you talk about the receivers. Now, listen, the 49ers secondary, especially their corners, now that Richard Sherman's back, really good. Him, Jason Verrett, and I like Emmanuel Mosley. And so if he plays, we'll see. But Stephon Diggs can separate from absolutely anyone in the NFL. He is incredible, and he's going to be open in this game. Now, he is going to be limited a little bit by Richard Sherman because Richard Sherman is also incredible. But Ty goes to offense in every scenario effectively, and that includes here. And even the other spot, Jason Verrett's been playing extremely well this year, but he's not a shutdown corner. And Gabriel Davis, the rookie, is like legitimately good on the Bills. So watch out for him a little bit. Now, he's going to be limited to a point, but the other one I want to mention is with K'Wan Williams out, the 49ers are probably going to lean on Jamar Taylor in the slot. Jamar Taylor is a whatever kind of replacement level slot corner. And Cole Beasley is like legit as a slot receiver. And he's going to be open a ton in this game. Now, he's going to be a little bit more limited by kind of running into zones that like Fred Warner occupies. But Cole Beasley, legitimately useful. Tight ends, though, Dawson Knox is bad. And Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Jimmy Ward can all effectively shut him down. Now, maybe he gets open on a play action, where any other tight end would be open, sure, but it's not going to be because he's doing it. So then you talk about the quarterback versus the defense. Now, Josh Allen is still not a complete killer, even given a clean pocket, which is what create what looks like inconsistencies. It's just because he's not, even in completely ideal circumstances, he's not incredible. Now, he's pretty good, but a lot of that has come from his receivers boosting him so much. Now, John Brown, who's a really good receiver, is on IR. It is a little bit worse. Stephon Diggs still incredible. Gabriel Davis, like I said, good, but actually they're going to be limited to a point. Their passing attack here, there's going to be success at times. Think like so, the Bills and Josh Allen much lower tier than this, but how the Packers had a lot of success in the first half when they played the 49ers a couple weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago. Down the field, and that's going to be something similar here. Because while Rodgers is obviously a lot better than Josh Allen, Diggs is easily on the same level as Devontae Adams, especially down the field. And with no pass rush, you're going to see fairly similar results. Not to the same extent, but it's going to be there. So then you talk about the 49ers defensive scheme. Josh Allen doesn't read great. Defense is great, but the 49ers don't do anything super complicated. And I think it's more likely that he just defaults to running instead of throwing dangerous stuff. Now, he might, but the overall pass game then, yeah, I think it's going to be pretty decent. Now, it's not going to be great because Allen is still just a limiter, especially to moving the ball up and down the field by himself and, taking bad sacks, that type of thing. And the receivers are limited. It's just that they are still, it's a tie goes the offense scenario combined with real lack of pass rush, and that just gets you somewhere. So I have them, and then once it gets to the red zone, again, they're going to be decent to okay. I mean, Josh Allen helps there with being able to run the ball. Their scheme is okay, and Stephon Diggs is one of the players that actually reaches the point of like being a killer in the red zone, where he can actually, as a receiver, change possessions to touchdowns, which is pretty rare in the NFL. But other than him, you kind of do run out of options where they're not going to be able to run the ball great in that level of in that area of the field. So I actually have them at a point spread of 20-27. I don't necessarily think. I think this is with a late score they get to this because they're just not going to be that consistent in terms of moving the ball up and down the field. And I don't think they're going to have a ton of possessions given what's going to happen on the other side of the ball. So yeah, 49ers offense versus the Bills defense. Injuries first. For the 49ers offense, nothing, and for the Bills defense, absolutely nothing. Good for them. So when you talk about the run game first, Bills are bad in run defense generally. And here I think that's going to continue, right? Because you look at the offensive line versus the defensive line, and while the interior of the 49ers offensive line is not very good at this point, Blake Tomlinson's pretty good, but I mean, Colton McKivitz is likely going to start again at guard. He did last week, and he Now, he was playing against the Rams defensive front, which is, I mean, not necessarily a great comparison here. But Quinn Jefferson, Ed Oliver, neither of them crazy. Both of them can, especially Quinn Jefferson, can penetrate into the backfield some. And you're going to see that in this game, but it's nothing ridiculous. And on the edges, though, then I get real worried for the Bills because the 49ers tackles are fantastic in the run game. And the Bills' edge defenders are kind of whatever. I mean, if they played Trent Murphy more, then they would be better. They don't, though, because I don't know, they got something against him, I guess. He's not a pass rusher. I can see, I guess, why they don't play him that much, but he should play a lot in this game. Because if it's Jerry Hughes, AJ Epinesa, Daryl Johnson, like, there's going to be a ton of control from the 49ers edges. And as soon as you get that, then I'm worried. And then you talk about the second level, and again, Bills linebackers, AJ Klein is pretty bad over like a number of rushing defense snaps. He's okay time to time, but he's just whatever. And then Tremaine Edmonds, I mean, he's I would compare him to like Jalen Smith on the Cowboys, where they're both they cleaned up stuff after the fact, like after the ball carrier's 5 yards on the field, but they do not really make plays beforehand almost ever. And that's a huge issue against the 49ers. I think you're talking about some really, really long gains, and the overall run game is going to be good. You're talking about long gains, and you're talking about control of the edges, and that worries me versus not good linebackers. Now, the safeties for the Bills do help. They're both disciplined, both good. But I'm worried about that. So you talk about the pass game, and again, kind of similar to the other side, there's not very much pass rush. It's, I mean, a bunch of mediocre edge rushers, except for Jerry Hughes, is a little bit better against really, really good tackles. That's gonna maybe vary occasionally because Nick Mullins hold the ball too long, but nothing quick. And then on the interior, again, the 49ers are vulnerable there, but Ed Oliver is just not a relevant pass rusher almost ever. And Quentin Jefferson is okay, but again, we're talking about non-Aaron Donald interior rushers, and they're even worse than that. You know, it's not even comparable to like Arik Armstead. It's worse than that. So there's not going to be a lot of pass rush. Now, you talk about the receivers there, I'm a little bit more worried. But the 49ers, right, so their offense is completely independent generally of how successful their receivers are at separating on the outside because they just don't utilize or throw the ball that way. So normally I don't even care, and actually that includes here. Like I do think Kendrick Bourne would be pretty limited by any of the corners. He's fine short. I actually like him as a rotation like receiver for short yard situations, but he's whatever. And then Deebo Samuel, I like a lot. And I do think that he's going to have some flashes of penetrating from even Tre'Davious White in this game. But over the course of the game, Tre'Davious White is going to limit his impact to a point, although he gets involved in so many other ways. You know, his stat line's not going to reflect that necessarily. So then you get to the quarterback. And this is the reason that I don't think the 49ers are going to run away with this game. It's Nick Mullins is still really bad. Really bad, and he like last week he only got to 23, including a defensive touchdown and a couple other turnovers. Like he just is constantly the reason that the offense fails, even in good situations. There was a game earlier in the year, I think it was against actually in that Packers game where theoretically he had all the things he needed to succeed, but it didn't work out that way. And I think again that's gonna be the case here where he's going to struggle, especially if it's like a neutral game script where he needs to throw the ball. Now, Shanahan helps, of course, and Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk are good about raising the floor of the quarterback, especially stat-wise, but he is just a limiter. And that, the overall pass game, especially, past the line of scrimmage, is going to be mediocre at best. Now, 49ers, again, don't worry too much about that. That's not what they depend on. They depend on the run game and being able to work off of that, which is going to work here. So, then though, I think you get to the red zone, and that's maybe where I'm a little bit more worried. Because then the advantages they exercise throughout the rest of the field get a lot worse. And at that point, I'd become worried about Nick Mullins actively tanking their offensive success as opposed to just kind of being a bystander the rest of the game. Deebo Samuel helps a lot there. That guy's a legitimate touchdown creator. Not at the same level as Diggs on the other side of the ball, but he's really good. And even in Ayuk too is actually on his path to being there, but I would get worried. So I would have them in a point spread of 14-21. which sounds, I mean, I saw the Bills at 2027, which sounds a little large, but like I said, I think that's more of a game close in the third, second half, and then Mullins has a turnover type of situation. Um, and so yeah, I just think Bills +2. If it was Bills -2, even I would take it. So Bills +2, I'm good with. Maybe taking it myself, but it's not like a lock. It's not my favorite thing because there's a path for Josh Allen to struggle in this game and for the 49ers to get 3 40-yard touchdowns. Certainly unlikely, but not impossible. And yeah, and they get same for really the same reason. I would lean the under in terms of the 49ers just sitting for field goals, but that's not something I would guarantee by any means. So yeah, Bills +2. I'm absolutely good with it. Under 47.5, that's a little high, so I would take it, but not my favorite. And that is Bills 49ers.